This is Chris Ruddy, and I love Gene Valentino's GrassRoots TruthCast. Make sure you're tuning in just like I do every day, every week, every minute.
With breaking news and political commentary from a public servant, serial entrepreneur, community leader, philanthropist, and American patriot, and a darn nice guy, it's time for the GrassRoots TruthCast and your host, Gene Valentino.
Hi, friends. Gene Valentino, and welcome back to another episode of Gene Valentino's GrassRoots TruthCast. You know, as we come to the end of the year, and in the spirit of reflection comes gratitude. We see in our hearts and our souls a lot of which we've been distressed with over the last, let's say, 4 years, but we also come to realize how much we should be grateful for as well. It's amazing how our constitutional republic, our democracy that runs our constitutional republic, has survived the stresses and torment of adversarial positions that have tried to take down this nation. And when you take a hard look at some of the areas that have been impacted, one of them is our military, and more specifically, our veterans. I'd like to, at the end of the year, have a reflection moment on the veterans of the United States military services of this nation. We have often taken them for granted. I reflect back myself to the early days of the Vietnam era, when our military men and women came off those planes and were spat upon by the likes of the Jane Fondas throughout the nation, disregarding our men and women. It was probably the darker day, and probably something we should be very concerned with in terms of the way we treat our veterans and the way we look to the future about how we plan to protect this nation. And before we do any more benevolence to the rest of the world around us, we best take a look at those men and women who have sacrificed their lives for us, died for us, and lost limb for us. And today I'm concerned about their wellness in terms of suicide, the suicide prevention issues. We're going to do a deep dive with VetCV, founder Niels, Andersen, and a co-partner with the group, Mr. John Rezen. We're going to have them on in a minute to do a deep dive on what we can focus on for the United States veteran. I'm looking forward to being your next United States Congressman as well in the weeks ahead in a special election for Matt Gaetz's seat here in the Panhandle of Florida, United States Congress District seat number 1. And when I get in there, I'm taking a moment now with John and Niels to do a deep dive on the veterans. Failure to defend the rights of other people may someday result in your rights and my rights not being defended. We're exploring the veteran right after this. I'm Gene Valentino, and I approve this message.
Trump won, but we know the real fight starts now. Congress needs a champion to move the MAGA agenda forward.
I'm Gene Valentino. Like Donald Trump and Elon Musk, I'm not a politician. I'm a businessman and innovator. When I'm elected, I'll put you, the American people, first. We'll abolish federal income taxes. We'll slash the budget and eliminate whole government departments. We'll send every illegal immigrant packing. My message to D.C. is simple: lead, follow, or get out of the way. Hey friends, welcome back to the GrassRoots TruthCast. My guests today, Niels Andersen, and on screen with us is John Rezen. Niels, I'm going to cut to the chase. Let's talk in the next 30 minutes about the veteran, you and John, and let's do a deep dive on VetCV, what you guys are all about, where you're going to help take care of our veterans. Niels, let's start with you.
Okay. Well, you know, it's interesting. You mentioned that you're running, and we know that you're running for Matt Gaetz's seat, and his predecessor was Jeff Miller. And as you know, and when he was named chairman of the VA committee on the Hill, That's when I started to learn about all the problems, the trials, tribulations of our nation's veterans and their families. And in the beginning, it was about there was a million appointment backlog for someone to get their C&P exam, which is their compensation and pension. Just imagine that how long you have to wait before you know you can pay your mortgage, and get your disability or get the ramp made or get your kitchen counters squared away because you're in a wheelchair or whatever it may be. And then on top of it, the long, long wait times in VA at the time. And what I heard was that the veteran was having trouble being able to manage and track all the documentation they needed to be able to have to get all this stuff squared away. And so that's where the idea of VetCV came about. And now it's really evolved into it's a free platform for our veterans and their families to manage their life record. What's next, right? Curriculum vitae in Latin means life record, actually, if you translate it. But then inside of that, one of the tall poles in our tent is what we're doing to try to help prevent and predict suicide, which, as you know, Gene, is a very big problem in our nation.
Yeah.
About 22, we don't know if it's 17 or 32 or 22, but there are a lot of veterans who die every day, and veterans represent veteran suicide represents about 15 to 16% of everyone who dies by suicide every day. Yet we're only 1.5% of the population. So imagine today's Friday. On Monday, there'd be a pile of 40 or 50 people that died by suicide. If you would just imagine that in your head.
This morning, I was on another broadcast, and one of the military experts was speaking specifically to the fact that since Donald Trump had won the election, anticipating the enthusiasm and excitement of his return to office in the inauguration on January 20th, that there has been a transformation of thinking, that there's an excitement and exuberance, enthusiastic new people looking to enlist or re-enlist into the military that were otherwise driven from it with despair and demoralization over where the Biden administration specifically, not to mention Obama, but more recently, the Biden administration recently had demoralized so many of our veterans, yielding to this suicide issue that we're talking about now, begs the point that, and they were saying, you're right, your number's close, 20 to 22 vets per day committing suicide nationwide is obscene. Welcome aboard, John Rezen, retired captain with the Service Corps. He's focusing with Niels on the healthcare administration issues and suicide prevention. John, introduce yourself and tell us more about your role with VetCV and where we're going to refortify the veterans and give them some care they need.
Thank you. Yes, my name is John Rezen. Very excited about working on this. We found that veterans need help, right? And I think there's probably three areas we're going to work where we want to help with. One is gaps in care. Yeah, we find here over and over, veterans have gone to a hospital or tried to get into a hospital. They can't get in, they can't get a physician, or they don't know what the next step in their care looks like. So we have systems in place to address gaps in care, and that's about value stream mapping. It's about care plans and so forth. The second element that we look at is really the full person. We talk about veteran suicide. Most of healthcare is not about medicine. It's about environmental factors, social factors. It's about behavioral factors. And we expect to take the veteran support from just medical care to a full person picture, develop care plans, and then VetCV will have a system for giving the veterans a voice, as well as for reporting that voice to the proper people to make sure those care plans are completed. And I think the final element of this is really about efficiency. It's about efficiency and effectiveness in the process. And we have all sorts of lean tools through VetCV and through Brad and other partner of ours who know how to really work through claims to really create efficiency in the process. And what we expect to do is take that efficiency and take the money saved through that efficiency and apply it to the care of the patients. And so we expect to be able to fund this through a better, more efficient government.
Well, that's the key word to me, John. Are we talking about a system that's innovative and new to the VA system, or are you talking about amplifying that which is already there that needs some nurturing? Niels, would you address that first? Because from VetCV's point of view, I'm trying to figure out what part of this elephant are you going to eat first? I mean, there is such a plethora of veteran care needs out there. I entered the game about 14 years ago, as you said earlier, with Congressman Jeff Miller, getting this veterans hospital off the ground here in the Pensacola area, smack dab between Jacksonville and Biloxi and Orlando. But it was an outpatient care system. It really wasn't the what I'd call full 24/7 care with needed technology on site with the diagnostics for immediate diagnosis and assessment. It was just an outpatient medical care facility, and that's what it is today. And it's backed up, and they're overloaded, and got doctors working 12, 14-hour days. It's part of that demoralization of the veteran that John was just talking about, Niels, that leads to these suicide concerns. Your take, Niels, on where VetCV comes into the picture to help it. Again, is this what John is saying? Is this a new program, or a curing or an amplification, a remedy update, if you will, of the existing care system in the VA?
Well, the first question you asked was how do how do you eat an elephant? And the obvious answer is one bite at a time. But I would also recommend not starting in the hindquarter, but starting at an ear where you can actually start eating it, if you have to. But it has to start somewhere, right? And that's where I think we are trying to help solve that issue by giving the control and, like John said, the voice for veterans to be able to manage and track what's going on in their lives. And then we can serve up. And when we detect that there's something that someone needs, we can serve up that resource. We also have many of the biggest health systems in the United States using one of our other software solutions, and they use it to recruit physicians. And so if we're recruiting physicians, every new physician that comes in to the marketplace needs to stand up their practice as fast as possible. That means they need patients. So when we detect that someone needs a doctor, we currently have about 223,000 doctors in that network. We can tell our veterans and their families where that doctor is and get access, make an appointment, and those kinds of things. But also inside the VA, talk about efficiencies. There are a lot of fantastic people inside VA that want to make a difference and want to do it right. The only thing people talk about in the media is the bad news, right? Because that's what gets the attention, the squeaky wheel philosophy of things. But there are a lot of people who want to do things. And to your point, Gene, as it relates to the efficiency and what John was talking about, I think we have an opportunity here to help identify where those inefficiencies are. And then also, when a patient comes into a system, they're tracked inside their EMR or their EHR, right? But with us, we can start tracking and educating and influencing in a positive way, and helping them before they get sick to get the services they need, and then the continuity of care once they get discharged, so that we can continue to educate them about nutrition. And
now, John, what Niels just said, John, jump in on that, because I'd like the people to understand how you plug into what he just said.
Yeah, so I would say, just to answer your question, this isn't like starting over. This is recognizing problems and fixing problems. And it's about creating a lean, well-operating system. And the VA isn't the only group with this problem. A lot of different structures have the same issue. But I would say the second element of this is really where healthcare is going in this country. It's going from from that just that medical visit or that admission to a fuller picture of that patient's needs. And just like Neil was saying, is when that patient is discharged, there needs to be a plan of care for that patient. And that plan of care isn't just another medical visit, it's all the series of services that have to take place. And VetCV would be the veteran's tool to make sure those things happen. If they don't happen, the veteran has a voice to say, hey, to hold the system accountable to make sure those services are being met. Does that
Okay,
answer your
so
question?
yes, it does. But so we have a very welcome to government.
Yeah.
Why do with $3 what you can do with $10? You know, the concern the concern I have is your system, your platform, your service is hopefully saving the taxpayers money, right?
That's the intent. And there's two
Okay,
ways
how do you
save
do
money.
how do you do that?
Two ways. One is just creating efficiencies in the system. And again, Brad isn't on today, but he has numerous ways to actually make the claims management process much more efficient, just reducing duplication. And we talk about value stream management. It's all about understanding what services you provide actually add value and eliminating those that don't add value. And that's really lean management in a system. So that's one approach. The second approach is really the longer term approach by keeping patients healthy. If we keep those veterans healthy, we avoid admissions.
Yeah.
And on the civilian side, every admission costs about $23,000. And so it's probably the same for the veterans. And so every admission we prevent, that means we've kept the patient healthy, but also we reduce the cost of healthcare. And that's really the long-term play here, is to keep the veterans healthy so they need fewer services because they're living healthier, more active lives.
Bingo. You know,
Well,
what you just said there, this is why I'm running for office. We are here in the Panhandle have such a propensity for existing active military and retired military. You got a community going across a few hundred miles of the Panhandle, which is basically fixed income. And you can't be messing around with a system with a lack of definition or clarity of the services that are being delivered. Do you gentlemen feel, and this is up for grabs for either of you, where's your stand? Do you believe that Donald Trump has an innovative approach in saying you take your TRICARE and your VA services? I remember the comment, you can pick your own doctor. That came out of Obamacare and it was a failure. But in this environment, can the veteran go to the private sector of healthcare and seek a private physician if he or she chooses and take that path for care? Or are you proposing a system that basically stays within a specific channel of VA care?
John, if you don't mind, I'll start with that, and if you could wrap it up, if that's okay. But just to give you some background, Humana Military does about 2/3 of all TRICARE claims, and we were a partner with them many years ago in something called resource sharing, and that is to manage the care for the military and dependents that need to go downtown or see civilian doctors. That model was something that the VA wanted to do, and we won that contract. We're the first tier sub to Humana for that. And we did something in 6 of the 21 VISNs, and we built a network of 46,000 providers that are very similar to TRICARE. But the coordination of care was what made a difference, where Humana and their efforts, and it's them that led this charge. We're just a first tier sub, but saved the VA $200 million. Reduced
Whoa. You saved the VA $200 million?
Just because the VA would go out and negotiate a contract, say with the orthopedic surgeons or the hospitals, the local VA would, but they had no leverage. They didn't know what they should be asking for in the way of cost. But Humana does. They do this all day long, every day, for millions of beneficiaries and their constituents. And so immediately that happened. The other thing that they achieved was they reduced the no-show rate by 15% to 5%. Imagine what that means.
The patient feeling motivated to get in there and get care, as opposed to being demoralized, dejected, and saying, I'm never going to go through this system. I'll never get care, so I'm not even showing up.
Exactly. And maybe my issue was the knee, but now I've been sitting, on the couch for a year, and now I have lung problems too, right? Or other mobility problems. So it just manifests itself into being bigger and bigger problems. But
Yeah.
that demonstration project turned into what's VA choice. And the point that, John was talking about, that Brad isn't here, but Brad is an expert in TRICARE and VA claims processing. And the reason we put this together goes to your point, Gene, from the very beginning, is that when we heard that Doge was happening, it's like I called Brad immediately, and I called John and Dr. Mark Goto, who's not here either. He's the MD on this side on our team, a former Navy captain, and said, listen, Brad, do you think we can maybe find several millions of dollars in inefficiencies in the TRICARE processing and VA processing system? And the answer was yes. So that's why we formulated this team, the strategic team of of efficiency, so to speak, to see if we can't help DC and Doge or whoever with absolute inside information about how the process works to go find some millions of dollars here and there and this and, quickly. I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah. To me, you have a situation where government is relying on the private sector again to solve its bureaucratic problem. It isn't the first time this has revealed itself. In fact, it's revealed itself in many aspects of government. But I commend you for trying to make an impact. When you said the $200 million savings before, Niels, was that in Florida alone, or was that part of a nationwide effort?
So the United States for the VA is broken up into divisions, and I
Yeah.
believe there's 21 of them. And our demonstration project was for 6 of those visions. I think it was 6. So it was just those markets. And just in those markets where we expected about 600,000 claims a month to be processed, the reason that Humana did not rebid as the incumbent, which they would have likely won at the time, was because we're getting less than 10% of the volume at the time. But the places that were doing it really, really well. And even in those places, a small percentage, obviously 10% of what we thought was going to happen is what we focused on. And even with that, it was still $200 million. And I also want to add that, VA, they are working their gluteus maximus is off to try to get more providers in place to be able to see patients. They shouldn't be sent downtown or to the civilian doctors if they can be taken care of at the VMAC or the CBOC, obviously, right?
I hope to be your congressman soon, and I'll tell you the way I feel. I don't care. I don't care if it's within the strict confines of a VA system or a broadened approach to let the private sector doctors be more available at the ready for the vets. I'm assuming there's a certain minimum level of care if you're a doctor in the first place. So I'm counting on the medical system in general, whether it's within government or the public sector, to be delivering the same level of care. So I don't care. I'm looking to experts like yourself to tell me how to move the mountain in the transformation of regulation. And how do I find folks like you to come? Now, do we chisel away at specific savings on a location by location VA district around the nation? Or is this some sort of, in your opinion, John, I'll throw it at you first, or is this, in your opinion, something that's ought to be legislative and statutory nationwide in some sort of global policy? What say you?
I think we have to prove our effectiveness. And I would say the process for doing that is starting in a few places, offer set, and this does require legislation. There has to be quality standards. There has to be standards set for every VA institution on the care of the patients. Second thing, we have to give those patients a voice, right? We have to empower those patients and give them a voice, and those standards aren't being met, and then empower them and hold ourselves accountable to make sure those needs are met. And then finally, institute a pro-competitive environment. create innovation. And just like you said, it doesn't really matter who does it. It just has to be done well. And so by creating that pressure to meet those standards, then civilian sector, the VA can be very innovative to meet those standards. And then the best system will win.
Well, I don't have a problem with the private sector coming in to help solve the problem. That's what VetCV is doing. That's what you guys are doing. As an elected official, I'm going to say, but I can't have 20 different VetCVs around the country working off different platforms of what they think the savings approach should be. There's got to be some sort of uniformity in the approach to streamline the approach. I'm a civilian, and I'm paying. All I know is the outside looking in. The guy and gal I represent are saying, I want lower taxes and more services. So this redundancy and this expenditure, this excessive cost to the taxpayer can be reduced through a plan you're providing. I'm sold. But how do you cookie cutter it in some sort of general delivery nationwide? You can't have too many cooks in the kitchen. You've got too many different approaches to this thing in the different districts in the nation. What's your approach in trying to get some sort of uniform spec in place for everybody to follow?
Yeah, so I would say, the uniformity has to be in the standards, set standards that everyone has to meet, those quality standards. Then let the people in these different environments meet those standards, right? And so we want best practices, but you can't have best practices by just saying, let's follow this process. You have best practices by letting people be innovative to develop a better way. And we can learn from those different groups and what they're doing. And over time, you develop that best practice. And that's why you standardize the process. You standardize it by learning from each other, developing the best practices, and then putting that best practice into place nationwide.
Yeah, I heard you say that earlier. Just basically improving operations is a monster that is the savings alone, John, that I think Niels was talking about. Folks, we're talking with Niels Andersen and John Rezen, two experts in cutting costs, saving, streamlining operations, improving efficiency, and most of all, caring for the vet and make sure him or her and the family around them are nurtured during a recovery process for that veteran in their time of need. It's happening through Niels's group called VetCV. When did VetCV first start or get founded, Niels?
Well, we started thinking about it in 2013 and we went live with the platform in 2017 originally. And we've been titrating our growth organically as far as users on purpose because we want to make sure that systems work and it's what people want. And so the platform is one thing, but we've also created a network of over 4,000 organizations around the country that provide services to veterans so that we can use our machine learning to be able to detect inside the system something you didn't know you needed because you don't have anyone to talk to about it. There is, you may not have a mentor, you may not have a group that you're talking to, you may not know where to go, you may not know what to look for in Google, but we can help serve that up inside the platform. And then we're taking it to the next level with the Johns and the Brads and the Marks of the world and developing this strategic side, because to be able, imagine for a second to have 1 million people express their opinion about something so they can be heard. And we can do that through VetCV, right? And then
go ahead.
And I was just going to say, I mean, we will have our fingers on the carotid pulse of what's going on with the veteran community to find out from the veteran and their families what matters to them. And then share that information with people like you, our elected officials, and other organizations that we work with to help find out what they need, when they need it, and let's go make that happen. We may be the only ones that detect it and then connect it to you, and we don't do it, but we just let you know. And then someone else that does what they do in that lane can take it from there.
To me, you're touching on such advances in technology. I came out of a technology world myself, but not on your side. I hate to use the word, but is this AI driven? Is this the new generation? I mean, do I get spooked and start wondering if you're turning into a
Yeah.
Samuel Bankman Fried on me with the AI technology? What are you
Yeah.
doing over there?
Well, so, AI is, everyone's talking about it for the last year or whatever, right? As if it's some crazy new thing. But
Yeah.
we got started actually with IHMC, the Institute for Machine Human Cognition, and working with Julie Shepard there, as you know, and what they were doing in predictive analytics. And we were their early stages of what they were working on that we're working with them on to implement in VetCV is the ability to predict the risk of suicide. And early on, back in 13, we were able to predict roughly the risk within 2 weeks. So if you're able to predict that someone's got a problem, right? Then now the question is, well, so what do you do about it? And that's where we come in too. We can say, we can cause an effect to let them know, call your mom, or hey, here's this tip, or here's what you should do, or alert a network of very close battle buddies and family members that somebody in your VetCV network could use a call today, right? Or whatever it may be. That's what our core mission is to try to help people throughout the different chapters of their life, whatever it is, personal
You know,
finance or
this is
suicide
the
or whatever.
surface story. This is the solution, but is it laced with a concern of a compromise in the HIPAA rules? I
Well,
mean, is there
so
data that you're capturing that might compromise the veteran? And well, I take that back. I mean, how much of our HIPAA data has already been compromised?
exactly. So we have enough information to where you have a personal health record, right? And that doesn't, and you control that. We don't hook to anything coming in and we don't hook to anything going out. We don't use, rent, share any data about our community, right? Or our subscribers.
Yeah.
We're just trying to help them do more. And if they opt out of using any data, even de-identified data, to put in the data lake so that we can have an effect on a community and a country, that's fine too. You don't have to participate. You control it all. Now, if you want to say, hey, I'm a 62-year-old male living in Southeast United States and I happen to like cars, then okay, that's fine. And maybe that has an impact, on people being able to, hey, we need to get some deal with Ford or something for 62-year-old males that like cars in the Southeast, or females that like cars in the Southeast, so that we can get a deal and say, here's $1,000, bring this coupon after you do your final deal. And maybe that makes
And
you feel better. Maybe that can
well,
bring your
you will always
brain.
run up against the government saying to you, you are breaching um, the security of privacy. And the question is, to what extent are you? You can't have it both ways, in my opinion. I mean, you've got to have
That's true.
some data in your hand if you plan on curing. So in the old-fashioned days, it was always the doctor-patient relationship, and that's where it stood and went no further, unless the family member wanted it to. But in your case, you're going to have to grab data
Same way.
that has propriety that you're going to need to use to direct your efforts on the solutions, and John, to the veterans you're trying to reach out to.
John, you want to take that?
Yeah, so if we take it to that next level where we're actually gathering medical information, there are HIPAA compliance standards that can be met, and there's high trust standards that can be met. I'm sure Niels already has addressed a few of those things. So it's not an impossible task to meet HIPAA standards. I mean, if technology wise, the difficulty is to make sure the people using the data doesn't share it, right? And that there's a whole nother standard we can set up. You have to have integrity in your organization, and you have to have systems in place that recognize any sort of breach. So those are all things that can be developed. It's HIPAA's been around for a long time now, and so a lot
Yeah.
of that has been developed. And you'll see that when those breaches do occur, they're quickly recognized, and it's typically not a technology problem. It's an individual problem.
Well,
Yeah,
John,
and
before
I was just going to say there's a Latin term, bonum non malus. That means good, not evil. And that's our core to our principles and how we go about doing everything. And
good for you.
so to tie with what John is talking about, everything that we do is completely locked in and controlled. That's why it's called the vault. And if you want to opt in and share something, because like you just talked about, Gene, if someone wants to show me their medical record, then they can show it to me. But we're not going to go in and grab any information that will be used anywhere outside of our universe.
Well, and furthermore, I presume you're under contract with the government or the government agency that's going to pinch you if you did. So
we don't have any. We're completely civilian at this point. We expect to do research and other things with government entities and civilian entities all around mental health and prediction of suicide and what to do about preventing it in the first place.
Gentlemen, in the last 2 minutes we have, John, I'd like you to summarize what you're doing with the VetCV and anything else, and then I'm going to let Niels close on where you are now and where you're going. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, just to summarize, our objective is to meet the needs of our veterans and their families in healthcare. And we do that three areas of focus. One is eliminate the gaps of care. Second is do a whole person review management, behavioral, social, and so forth. And third is create much more efficiencies in the system.
Very good. And Niels, your thoughts on where VetCV is going now?
Well, I think with, the team that we're talking about here, we're getting into the next level of what we can do to help this country and our subscribers. Would not just the vault, but help them with getting access to care, reduce suicide, and just help them have a better life, including getting a great job with a great employer. That's how it's, VetCV is free, right, to the users. And how we make it free is we want corporate America to hire our nation's veterans. There are so many people that are not planning and transitioning well. When I got out, for instance, they checked my hearing, maybe. They said, hey, can you hear what I said? Open your mouth, let me look at your teeth, and can you see how many fingers I have? And that was it. Now they have taps, which is much better, but it's still not ready. And so hiring veterans and getting a great job, how much stress does that take off of someone or their families? How much divorce is reduced, right? How much better parenting is going to happen if you have a great job with a great employer?
Are you saying that VetCV makes its money off the placement of the veteran into the sector, any sector, private sector, or are you saying that you're making your money off a software platform designed for the Veterans Administration locally or nationwide, or are you making money off both?
We're not building anything to tie to the Veterans Administration specifically. If we understand there's a problem like John is talking about and we uncover it, now we have the population to find out what they really need and then get them the care that they need, and we can connect them to the VA resources in the right place at the right time, or civilian resources that we have because we have hospital clients and physician clients all over the United States. So we can help direct that care because we can detect the need for it that much sooner. Literally, we can detect that need immediately and do something about it.
So how do you pay your bills? Who's your customer?
So how we always want to have the platform free for our community, right? We're all veterans. And so we're doing this is our next mission, right? For us. So how we make it possible to do that is we want corporate America to post jobs on our platform so that we can get it out to people who want a great job or, the next job, right? And to do all the things that we just talked about. And then we also have a lot of nonprofit partners. We call them Patriot partners, right? But we also have for-profit partners. And if those for-profit partners have a product or service that they offer veterans, then we're going to go, number one, we'll vet them to make sure they're not BS. Let's be honest, right? And taking advantage of people. And then if they meet our qualifications, then we will negotiate some sort of a benefit to our community that they wouldn't otherwise get. And then probably either in kind or dollars for us making that connection. right? So we make money, the veteran gets to save some, they get access to resources they otherwise wouldn't be able to get access to. And we're able to grow and do more and more research. And the other last part is our continuing R&D on life stuff that we need, and then predicting of suicide and health needs and anything else in your life. And so we when we go out and get grants, whether it's nonprofit through our foundation or through VetCV, which is for profit, then that's another way we make money.
Well, so how does the veteran find out about you? How does anybody find out about you?
Well, so we push out to social media a lot, and we also push out to via email, but vetcv.com will get you started. If you want to contribute and donate to a great cause that we do through our foundation, that's the VetCV Foundation. And we're, as a matter of fact, here in about 45 minutes, we're giving some canine vests to the police department here in Pensacola for their dogs. Some, bulletproof vests and stabbing proof vests and things like that. And then we're also raising money, and we raised money from our dinner last month, where we're supporting the Maxwell Respite Center. They have families and children that are homeless there, and they have a veteran wing. So we're proud to be able to give a big check to them through our foundation, hopefully today or tomorrow or next week before Christmas.
This is wonderful. John Rezen, Niels Andersen, I am so grateful to have you on. You came to me because I was out campaigning to become your next congressman, and what happened in this context is I went, holy schmoly, these guys are right up the same alley I am, hitting this from a different side. The protection of the veteran, which is to me a very high priority on my platforms for the concern here in the panhandle of Florida, really doesn't stop there. It's all veterans nationwide, but it's veterans that are displaced, homeless, suicidal, and to the contrary, need to be gentrified, brought back into, mainstreamed back into society. And I'm so proud of VetCV, John Rezen and Niels Andersen for promoting this. I look for a pathway for you when I'm elected to see what I can do to help you help the VA take this to a whole new level, as both of you have described. I want to thank you for being here with us today, gentlemen. And I want to thank you, the citizens who have been watching this. I hope you contact VetCV and learn a little bit more about how you can help the veteran, or if you are a veteran, how VetCV can help you. In fact, these guys have got me running out to a visit as well at our Pensacola Veterans Administration right after this broadcast. I'll be meeting with patients and doctors and administration to get a better understanding of exactly what's going on at the grassroots level. And that's why we call it Gene Valentino's GrassRoots TruthCast. Thank you for joining us here today on another episode of Gene Valentino's GrassRoots TruthCast. See you soon.
I'm excited to announce our Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Our famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. Regularly $119.98, now only $59.98. Our 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save on all MyPillow products. For example, flannel sheets for as low as $59.98, or our 6-piece towel sets, just $29.98. But that's not all. I'm extending our 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free. Thanks for joining us for Gene Valentino's GrassRoots TruthCast. Be sure to like and subscribe, and God bless America.